Two powerful names, two popular institutions, Mr. Trump, Mr. Elon Musk, the presidency and the Dodge. They are every corner of the world. All media, all social media, all the platforms speaking about them. That shows how much powerful they are. When they endorse it, when they respect it, when they speak about it, it clearly means a lot. Guys, you must have seen the clip of few days back when Mr. President had been praising DeepSeek, a Chinese product. He was admiring, he was adoring it, and that speaks the success of that particular app. And of course, at the same time, Mr. Musk, the Dodge, the way they are making every institution of their country accountable, and Mr. President has put whole of the AI ecosystem of the US under the accountability at the cost front. And I really respect and admire Mr. President on this positive approach of this competition. A salute to him. Cut guide, press secretary. And I'm sure you must have been following the news of the aviation tragedy in Washington DC few weeks back. And she put the questions on DEI, diversity, ethnic inclusiveness of the last administration. Here this question also belongs to the American artificial intelligence ecosystem. Of course, the cost part, the diversity part, the inclusiveness part. The NVIDIA is of course under deep pressure. The way on that particular day when the DeepSeek was revealed to the world, when they came out on the world, and of course whole of the world had been praising about that, and $6 trillion, the market valuation all over the world indexes lost it. NVIDIA was the biggest under the pressure. The question arises, the American or especially the Western world, they had been creating their own ecosystem of artificial intelligence. Have they ever thought of including whole of the world? Because the artificial system is going to be a founding protocol for all the planet. Each nation has to be included. So that question also belongs. This part we will be discussing in some other episode, but let me continue on the DeepSeek part. How and why they have become successful. Of course, I am from India. And in India, we have a very popular word, jugaad. Jugaad is, that means innovations. We create, we innovate as per the circumstances. The same way Chinese did it on this artificial intelligence ecosystem. They learn from the models of all over the world which are available on the open source. And on that particular open source models, they innovated with their cost cutting tool for which the Chinese are popular for. And they came out with the DeepSeek with such an advanced artificial intelligence system with $6 million, on which the American companies had been pouring billions and billions and billions of dollars every year. Big question. But of course, at the same time, we have to admit, we have to respect that it is the American and the Western world who put up the initial investment to put the artificial intelligence into the revolutionary mode. But how to innovate, how to make further cost effectiveness, we have to learn from China. And that's why DeepSeek has created a seismic wave all over the world. And of course, not only the NVIDIA, all of the artificial intelligence companies of the Silicon Valley of the Western world have been put under the question why their billion of the dollars are needed. Now they are more accountable. The same accountability Mr. President had raised for the Silicon Valley guys. Very important. The second important part, the Chinese, what they proved, and I always say that means tariffs, restrictions, sanctions always enhances the innovations of a country which is hunger for success. Maybe it's China, maybe it's India. Why India? Of course, still I remember that means when I was, that means in the initial phases of my corporate world, India came up with this nuclear program and lot of restrictions had been put up. But what happened? India learned that how to grow further, how to keep growing that business with the limited resources. The same way China, Americans, they put a lot of restrictions on their chip export to the China. So what the DeepSeek had done, and that is the beauty of the DeepSeek, with the limited budget, they have used the less processing capabilities of the chips to make their artificial intelligence platform, which is as good as the American ecosystem. It clearly shows that means with the necessity they have improvised a lot. So that's the reason that Nvidia lost its market value in a big way, A big challenge, and of course at the same time it's an inspiring story for Indians also. It doesn't mean that means we have lost the race. India, of course, that means we are in the very initial phase of the artificial intelligence, but we can learn very fast because the foundations have been created by the Western world, especially America. Now China have given the opportunity, have put a model that how to innovate. Even the Indian companies can also innovate further because the Chinese DeepSeek is available on the open source model. Codings are there, algorithms are there. From there we can innovate further. We can create our own artificial system in a more cost effective way. We are a cost concerned nation, and why not? We should do it. But sometimes a lot of questions are being asked. Can India win this particular race?
Indian social media nowadays full of questions why India is not able to have the established artificial intelligence platform, although government is putting its best. I have been surfing up the statistics, how much R&D investment we are doing it up in terms of the world. You will be surprised and shocked to learn China is leading it. They are putting up like 3 to 4% of their GDP, annual GDP, to the research and development. The US 2 to 3%, Israel 5 to 6%. And at the same time, if you see that data more in depth, then you will be surprised to see 75 to 77% participation is of the private sector. Still in India, we don't have that particular participation of the private sector making the investment in the R&D. Without the R&D, we cannot have the cutting edge technology. If you see the broadly, still India, we are into that particular technical spectrum where we are just doing all the skilled and the labor work, but we are still not doing the cutting edge technology development part. And here the government and the private sector have to work together, then only that means they come out with this one. And for that R&D investment is the most important part. Of course, we have the big pool of the young and the aspiring talent, but unfortunately they are working for all the big multinationals and they are looking at India as a pool to have the resources. But in terms of the development, we have to put the money into the R&D sector, then only we can have it. Very important part. And then here the China, that means you will be surprised and shocked. Whatever we say, whatever we claim, that means the China, they have the communist government, they have the communist party, the same DeepSeek have come out from there. So it clearly shows they have an ecosystem where the government is promoting, pushing the private sector to go for that cutting edge technology. Now we have seen the artificial intelligence. I am sure they must be working on the space part also. Only few days back, there was a launch of that particular rocket carrying the bunch of the cluster of the satellites, and they have got an aim. The name is Long March 8A, something like that, and that is have the aspiration. That means within a year they are going to have more than 7,000 these mini satellites, giving a direct threat to the Starlink's supremacy in the internet world. That's the cutting edge technology development. Here India has to do a lot. They have got their brands. Now the China is coming up their brands. And of course the DeepSeek has been like a Sputnik moment between this ongoing US and the China trade war. name that means the Chinese company. Nowadays we are using the Chinese companies, the brands so much. Whether it's a WeChat, whether it's a Baidu, whether it's a BYD, just name it. Huawei, just name it. They have got it. So to go into that particular leap, into that particular curve, we have to have very strong collaboration of the government and the private sector. Then only India can also have the deep seek like cutting edge technology. We have all the resources, we have that skill, we have that dedication. Only ecosystem is desired of the private sector and the government collaboration. Then we can have it. Guys, keep watching this war of the technology. Who is going to win? Who is not going to win is going to see. We are going to see from time to time. And here I would love to add one more thing. Of course, even the chips are restricted. That means the American government have put a very strong restriction. That means they, all these chip making companies, they cannot export very advanced chips to the other countries. Of course, China also, even India also, but it clearly means we can easily have the chips of the lower capabilities, and we can create cutting edge technology like China. So we cannot claim that we don't have the technology. We can create it with the limited resources, guys. But meanwhile, keep our eyes on the ongoing war of the technology between the China and the US, and I'm sure a lot of surprises will be coming up. Last but not the least, this is my personal interpretation of the ongoing scenario of this coming of the deep seek. That's clearly my personal one, and I always prefer to state again and again, just so no controversy, no contradictions. That's all for the day. Thank you, guys.